Good to be with you, Casey.
So just want to start with a simple question. Do you believe, as President Trump does, that Judge Boasberg should be impeached?
Well, normally, as Chief Justice Roberts has pointed out, the remedy for bad decisions is the appellate court. But it seems to me you may have something a little different here. This judge's decision was so ridiculous, it seems to be political. And then when you add to it the history of Judge Boasberg, his work with the FISA court, back in the whole Trump-Russia baloney, that whole, fake collusion thing that they talked about, the Democrats talked about forever. And then, of course, his sentencing of Kevin Kleinsmith, the guy who lied to the FISA court, altered a document back during that same time frame. I think you might have here a judge who's acting in a political fashion. That is a different question. And so for us Republicans, and I think folks on the Judiciary Committee, all options are still on the table. We're going to do some research. We're going to dig into this, and we're going to find out. And then I think when you really step back, Casey, and look at how stupid the decision was by this judge, I mean, he basically said, not basically, he did say, turn the plane around, bring back gang members, hardened criminals who've done all kinds of bad things, who are here illegally, turn the plane around and bring those bad guys back to the country. I think just on its face, this is ridiculous. And so it sure looks like the judge is acting in a political fashion.
I completely understand the argument that people are making about whether the planes whether these people should have been deported or not. I want to get a little bit more clarity on what you're saying. What specifically has Judge Boasberg done that you believe is an impeachable offense under the constitutional description of high crimes and misdemeanors?
All I'm saying is if you're acting in a political fashion and not just, following the law, ruling on the law, and I would argue that, frankly, just his ruling in and of itself, remember, the Constitution is pretty clear. Article 2, Section 1, very first sentence says, power in the executive branch shall be vested in a president of the United States. The president has the authority here. Second, he followed the statute.
Isn't there a major body of law that shows that he would probably be likely to win?
Predatory incursion, and that he followed the statute. And then third, the president told the country he was going to do this. It's not like it's a surprise to anyone, let alone this judge. He campaigned on it and said he was going to do it. So I think when you put all that together, that's what makes this decision look so political on the part of Judge Boasberg.
But Mr. Chairman, and we actually showed how many times the president said exactly that he would use this law when he was on the campaign trail. We showed our viewers some of that yesterday. So I do take that point. But given all these arguments, if you think that this is, and there is an enormous body of law out there, some of it built during the Bush administration, which I know, you were here in Washington during a lot of this, that suggests that the president actually might win this case on the merits in the longer term under the normal process. So if you're the White House, why not put that appeal through? Why not use the process that's available to you right then?
Well, there, in fact, may be an appeal process. I know we got all kinds of cases. I think 15 different cases now where there have been some federal district judge who's done some kind of injunction, ruled against President Trump in just 8 weeks of him being in office. So those are all going to get challenged. You go through the appellate process. That may, in fact, happen in this particular case, too.
Sure.
All I'm saying is this judge looks different than some of the other things we have seen. And the pace that were 15, I think in the Biden administration, it was like 13 in the entire 4 years. There have been 15 of these in 8 weeks. So, again, that's a concern. It's why 2 weeks ago, the Judiciary Committee, we passed legislation which said when a federal district judge in Timbuktu, California, issues an injunction, it should only apply to the parties of the case in that respective jurisdiction, not apply nationwide in some of these other cases that we're dealing with. We think that's good. We passed it through the committee. We'll try to look to pass it on the House floor and move it through the process.
Sir, let me ask you about something you said partway through your first answer, which is this question. You are in charge of the House Judiciary Committee. Do you plan to hold hearings that may look at the impeachment of Judge Boasberg or other federal judges?
We're going to hold hearings on this entire issue. The 15 injunctions that have been done in an 8-week time frame, Judge Boasberg's decision. We plan on holding hearings, hearing from experts, talking about this whole kind of body of law, this whole situation. Again, everything is on the table. We're considering all options. That's why we passed legislation. There may be another legislative remedy we want to look at. But we do think it's important for us to gather information, get input on this issue. We're looking just maybe even as early as next week having a hearing in one of our subcommittees. We're not ruling out anything. I never do that.
Do you think it'd be politically risky to hold impeachment hearings for judges, considering the incredibly narrow House majority?
Look, I'm not saying we're going to go there. All I'm saying is I think this is a concern. Judge Boasberg has raised concerns with us Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, Republicans in general, over the years. When you go back and look at the whole FISA situation, remember what happened there, where the Comey FBI took a dossier that was paid for by the Clinton campaign, hiring the law firm Perkins Coie, who hired Fusion GPS, who hired a foreigner, Christopher Steele, who wrote this bogus document full of all kinds of falsehoods. The Comey FBI took that document to the FISA court, and they got warrants to go spy on the other party's presidential campaign. And Judge Boasberg was a part of letting that happen. And then one of the guys who lied to the court, Kevin Kleinsmith, got a slap on the wrist for actually altering a document in front of that secret court. And now he comes out with this decision, and we're not supposed to look at that? Of course we're going to look at that. You'd be crazy not to. So we're going to look at that, but all options are on the table, legislative and anything else, and that is the approach we're taking as we begin to hear from experts in hearings we plan to have over the next several weeks.
Have you spoken with President Trump about this?
I've not. I mean, I talk to him on a very regular basis, but I've not spoken to him about this particular issue. Maybe it'll come up. I'm going to see him later this week.
Okay, good to know. Do you think that part of why he called for the impeachment of this particular judge is personal, is to do with what you just outlined?
I don't know. I think it's probably because President Trump is doing exactly what he told the voters he was going to do. And you got a judge who says, turn the plane around, bring the bad guys back to America. Maybe the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And frankly, when the American people hear this, they're like, what is this judge doing? The president runs the executive branch. He's the one who put his name on a ballot, got elected. He's entitled to make these kind of decisions and not have some judge jump into the executive branch function and say that he can't do it. And particularly when the people we're talking about are really bad guys who did really bad things and aren't citizens of this country. That's the bottom line. So when you got a judge who does this, it makes you wonder, is this judge operating in a political fashion? And then when you look at the history of this guy, you say, sure looks like he is.
All right. Congressman, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask you about something else a little bit closer to home for you, because there is a Republican primary in the gubernatorial race in your home state of Ohio. President Trump endorsed Vivek Ramaswamy. Do you support Vivek Ramaswamy for this post?
Yeah, I like Vivek. I think he'll be a great governor of our state. There's some other good guys who are talking about running, but Vivek's the guy I think who's going to win this thing, and I really like his energy. I like his conservative philosophy. I like the fact he's talking about getting rid of the income tax in our state. So I think Vivek's a great candidate and will be a great governor when he wins the election here in our great state.
So we should consider that a formal endorsement. All right.
I like Vivek. I really do.
Okay. Congressman Jim Jordan, Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being with us today. I hope you'll come back.
You bet.